Hey, all you seventh graders, and welcome to another episode of Miss Schweitzer Teaches Science. I'm Miss Schweitzer, and I'll be teaching you science. Quick recap. Last week, we learned about life cycles, and then we followed up with genetic and environmental factors that might impact those life cycles. Remember, in a life cycle, an organism needs to develop to the point of reproduction, and when it reproduces, it passes on its genes for the environment that population is living in. This week, we're changing gears a little bit. Remember, Miss Howard will be doing your video lesson for Wednesday, and we both will be live on Monday and Wednesday at 12 o'clock, so come join us then via Zoom. All right, I'm going to jump into today's lesson. Follow along. I'm going to start with some materials that you're going to need, and then we'll start in on the lesson. So what you'll need to pull up from Google Classroom for this lesson, there will be the slides. That'll be linked into your notes. You don't have to pull those up because I'm going to be going through them in this video, but you can if you'd like. On Google Classroom, you also have an actively learn reading to complete. Actively is great because you can actually have it read it to you. You've got tools to annotate your reading if need be, so that will be available. And let's go over the timeline for this week. So I'm going to go over the notes today, and you'll actually have time to read that actively learn reading. You can do that in one day if you'd like, and then take a break and finish this on Tuesday. Or you can just do it all at once. You're going to finish this lesson up by finishing the notes, which is watching 2 videos. So if you feel like it, you can just go ahead and knock everything out at once. So here we go. Our objective is to explain how adaptations influence the life cycle of an organism. So now that we learned about those genetic and environmental factors, you don't need to write this. As you can see, the first thing you're looking for is what do the factors that influence an organism's development lead to? So right now we're just doing a quick recap. Recall the factors that we learned about last week. Environmental factors are the abiotic or biotic, living or non-living factors within an environment that can actually impact the life cycle of an organism. While genetic factors are those things that are in the organism's DNA, it's born with. So a lot of you on your exit ticket or your learning check said that one turkey might be larger than the other because its body systems, it's born with a more muscular, athletic build. Some of you said an environmental factor would be like having more food sources. Maybe it's eating more, getting more out of its environment, helping it grow to a larger size. So either one of those would be correct. Now, moving into today's first note. The factor that influences an organism's development can also lead to adaptations. This is where, now that you fill that in, you're going to go into your note sheet and move on to the actively learn. So you're going to open up that article. I know you've been using this for social studies, so I'm sure you're very aware of the tools available, but if you highlight something, it'll actually, you could have it read it aloud for you, or you can read it for yourself. It is not a long reading, so it shouldn't take you too long. So if you'd like to pause the video and do that, you can. I just want you to be aware that you will also need to fill in some notes here. So while you're answering the questions on the actively learned reading, you will also need to answer them here. So questions you need to answer. What is the difference between inherited and acquired traits? What does survival of the fittest mean in terms of natural selection? I left a note in the actively learned reading, so look at that to answer the question. Define adaptations. Summarize the 3 conditions for natural selection. So when you read over those, make sure you bullet 1, 2, and 3. How do changes in the species environment cause the species to adapt? So take some time to read that and then come back to my video. From here, you're going to have to return to the slides to finish the lesson. So I'm going to move into adaptations, and then you'll finish for Tuesday's part with the plant and animals videos. Back to the slides for me. These are the notes you will need to fill in. Like I said, the slides is linked inside your notes document, so you can pull it up and get them that way as well. Adaptations, as you read from your reading, don't happen overnight or even in one generation. So, if something limits the population, say the bird with the longer beak lives that year and reproduces, you're not going to be guaranteed that all of the next generations of birds are going to be born with longer beaks. Instead, it's going to take hundreds to thousands of years to make that change in the species because we're talking about genetic DNA, traits within your DNA. Well, you have recessive and dominant traits, so you have to continuously have one trait being wiped out and the other trait succeeding. They come from variations, like I said, in the offspring. When those offspring reproduce, they pass along the traits that were popular. So, if all the other birds with shorter beaks that can't really reach into the center of the flower to get the nectar, if those birds aren't getting the food they need, they're going to start dying off. The longer beaked birds who were successful at reaching into the flower to get the nectar will survive their life cycle. They will produce, and they'll possibly pass on the trait of the beak that they had. So from here, if you'd like, you can just continue on, or if you want to pick this up on Tuesday, you'll watch the plant adaptations and be sure to fill in your notes, and there's also one on animal adaptations. In your notes, what you'll need to be filling out, what are the factors or conditions that cause plants to have adaptations? So listen closely to where those plants are growing and what kind of things that they need. And what different adaptations do plants have? So, what are some examples of differences between the plants that help them to be successful? And finally, explain the animal adaptations. You're going to list 5 of the adaptations you see in the video and describe how that adaptation helps the animal stay alive. So, there's a bullet area down here. Just go until you get 5 of them. Hopefully, that's a good enough explanation that you'll know what to do to be successful on today's lesson. But if you have any questions, please reach out to me or Miss Howard via email or come to our live Zoom sessions. We're free then to answer questions that you may have. Have a great 2 days. Make sure this is done by Tuesday night. It's due by midnight. See you next time.